Hey, everybody. Welcome back to an edition of the Southeastern Sports Network podcast. So happy to have you with us here as we kick off our second podcast of the season as we get inch closer to the start of the college football season for your Southeastern Lions. Absolutely going to be it's always an exciting event when you can open up at home, something the Lions have not been able to do in recent years, and to do it on a Thursday night. And that usually attracts tons of students to the game. So hopefully the home atmosphere for the opening game will be about as good as it's been in a while in Strawberry Stadium. And we've had good home openers. I mean, I think the guys are welcoming in Mark Willoughby and happy to have Alan Waddell with us tonight. His first appearance, kind of giving his breakdown of the season. But we've had some really good crowds for the home openers, guys. You could argue that they're as good or better as homecoming in recent years. So hopefully a Thursday night game to start the season, kicking everything off, will bring a lot of people out. Looking forward to it. I know Lion fans are as well. So he's Mark Willoughby. I mentioned Alan Waddell joining us tonight. Guys, thanks for being with us tonight.
Always great to be here, Rob. Alan, good to see you again.
Excited to make my first appearance here of 2026. Excited for the season upcoming. We're playing that week 0 game on Thursday night. We're literally playing the first date you can possibly play this year. That's exciting. We're getting started just a few weeks away from kicking it off in Strawberry Stadium, and it ought to be a fun year. Coach Selfo has built a consistent winner here in Hammond. Seems like we don't rebuild, we just kind of reload. And I think there's no question that this football team that we have this year can do I think what we've done in Coach Selfo's other good years, win conference championships and get to the playoffs.
16 days away is the opener, and 27th of August, as Alan mentioned, that is the week 0 of college football. The Lions are getting into that mess, and as all of FCS football is, and they're doing it on a Thursday, so should be really exciting to watch that home opener. Alan, you weren't with us last week, so just kind of give your thoughts on what your expectations are from what you've heard and a little bit you've seen of the Lions so far this season in the camp and the guys returning, and what you're looking forward to seeing out of this group in 2026.
Yeah, excited to get ready to watch this club. I think there's going to be a lot of returners from a team that was really good a year ago, a team that ran into a very difficult opponent in the first round of the playoffs at home against Illinois State. Ended up winning the national championship. Probably should have won that game, and Southeastern really stymied that club for most of the day defensively, as Illinois State couldn't really move the football on us. But on the other side, we couldn't move the ball on them. So, what does offense look like? You have a new offensive coordinator this year, a first-year play caller. Excited to see what it looks like there. You have a returner at quarterback in Kyle Lowe, who played a lot last year. Some newcomers in that room as well. Your running back room, I think, is as good as it's ever been here at Southeastern. I think the first 5 of the offensive line is very solid. Who are some of those backup guys? Because you're not going to go through a whole season with only playing 5 offensive linemen. You got some guys at receiver that's really got to, they've got to elevate their game. Jalen DiMaggio moved on to Wisconsin, so who's going to be the go-to receiver this year? And also, I'm just excited to see what the offense is going to look like. I think defensively, you lose arguably the best player in Southeastern history in Caleb Proctor, especially on the defensive side of the football. And that's saying a lot because, you have guys like Robert Alford, who was an outstanding player in the NFL. Other great players, Isaiah Corbett, Keelan Hubert went to the Hall of Fame a couple of years ago. And those are just the modern players. You can go way back as well with some of the players that before football came back. But, you lose him. But, man, that defensive line looks pretty salty. I think our secondary looks outstanding as well. I think we're strong in the kicking game. Our linebackers are good. I just think that there's not a whole lot of weaknesses on this football team, and I can't wait to see us play. And excited to watch us play at home for the first time on an opener since Jacksonville State? Frank's first year. That's how long it's been since we've opened the season at home. I think it ought to be very exciting. We'll be the only game in town that night. Nothing else will be competing against us on that Thursday night. Hopefully we'll have a big crowd in Strawberry Stadium to welcome this football team.
Lions have played a few Thursday night games to open the season under Coach Selfo. Alan mentioned Jacksonville State, UL Monroe, and then Tulane. So this kind of stacking up to that situation of being, I think it's good for the coaching staff because you get kind of an extra few days, before the next game. A lot of people are playing on Saturday. We're going to break down the schedule tonight a little bit and talk about it and what we expect from each game and the conference itself. So, Mark, as camp moves along, I know you've been able to see a little bit more of practice, since we last were on together. Just kind of your thoughts as how everything's coming together.
Well, I had a chance to get out there on Saturday. Southeastern, unlike a lot of college football teams, they don't have those big 90, 100 play scrimmages, those massive scrimmages that most schools have every week. They scrimmage almost every day, 11 on 11. But Saturdays are a little bit different. They bring in officials and full gear, and they go after it pretty hard, even though it's situational in nature. But this past Saturday, man, the defense really dominated. I thought they really showed up to play, and that's not uncommon this time of year, especially the second week of camp, because the offense is still installing stuff. They're not going to be where they're going to be in a couple of weeks, but man, the defense is. Alan mentioned it. We talked about it last week. You lose Caleb Proctor, you lose Ahmad Bradley, Zach Johnson moved on to transfer. You lose KK Reno, Ian Goodley in the back end, and you lost so many good football players who played such good football over the years. That can you do it again? Can you have a defense like last year, which led the league in scoring defense? But I got to tell you, this front four is really active, gets after it. Evan Aubrey's back. I think he and Khalid Moore are going to make up perhaps the best defensive end duo in the conference, if not the country. They really get after it. What was going to happen inside with the loss of Proctor and Bradley, I think we're seeing that. Peyton Anderson's back. He looks a lot more active than he's been in the past. Gabe Whittington's back. He's put on some weight, really quick, strong kid inside. Very little body fat on him. And it looks like they're developing some depth behind him with some younger guys. So really good in the front four. They can get after the passer, create some havoc along the offensive line. And then the secondary, I think, is where this team's really improved. You lost some good corners last year, but you brought in some guys to transfer. You've added some pieces on the back end. So it's got a chance to pick up where it left off last year defensively. Now, Alan touched on it. How's this offense going to look? I think this is going to be a team that's going to be able to run the football. Good up front, especially the starting five. Still got to find out who the pieces are going to be behind them as far as the depth goes. But they can push the line of scrimmage. They're big. They're long when you see them in person. This is not your typical Southeastern, more of a squatty type lineman. These are guys that are long, have some length, athleticism to them. And a stable of running backs is as good as Frank Selfo's had since he's been here. I think the quarterback situation with Kyle Lowe, I think he's going to be more than solid back there taking the reins. The questions, who's going to be the second guy to take snaps. And, of course, the wide receiver group, it's going to be young. Some guys are going to have to step up. There's some capability there. Some young guys, I think, got a chance to be really good. So right now, this team's where it's supposed to be. Defense is probably ahead of the offense, but I think the defense has got a chance to be really good. Hey,
I want to jump in real quick. One quick thing too, Mark, and I think you'll agree with me on this. Going back to, everybody wants to talk about quarterback, and I think that's obviously very important. And, Kyle Lowe played a lot last year. And for our fans that haven't had a chance to hear Kyle speak or talk, he's an impressive young man. He's about as intelligent, well-spoken of a leader of your football team as you can ask for. And I think that certainly, when you have a guy leading the troops that can deliver a message, I think that certainly brings good things. And I think that's one thing our fan base is really going to be excited about with Kyle Lowe. I mean, just an incredible, impressive young man who's been around the game his whole life. Very, very smart. And, I don't know what it's going to look like because, Coach Selfo loves playing a couple of guys. But I kind of hope that they just turn this thing over to him and let him play. And let's see how it plays out.
Well, amen to that, Alan. He is he's a leader. He was a leader last year. He was a guy who had to share time, and but was still a leader, was a guy that accepted, not really a backup role, but maybe a secondary role to Carson Camp last year. But he comes from a football family. His dad's a head coach. His grandfather was Woody Lowe, who was probably should be in the NFL Hall of Fame. Certainly one of the best players ever played at the University of Alabama. Played a long time in the NFL. Was an All-Pro. So his brother Trey played at Southern Miss in West Virginia. So this is a football family. I think the mom's obviously very successful, and but he's impressive, and he commands a huddle, and he's a guy you want to root for sure. And he brings so much to the table, and he's improved. He had a good spring and having a great camp so far here in 2026. But again, it's going to be who's going to be that next guy. Now, Frank Selfo, as you said, likes to play two, but we do know when Cole Kelly was here and having the Walter Payton type seasons, he got 99% of the snaps, and we'll see how it goes. But Kyle Lowe's an active quarterback. He's going to run the football, and he got a chance to take a ding. So you're going to have somebody ready to play. And I thought Isaac Trey Mooring, who's a transfer, looked pretty good on Saturday. Certainly has some rust to knock off, but he started some games in the past as a true freshman at the Division II level. And then Cole Welliver is a really talented young man that looks the part. Just hasn't played a lot of college football. He's gotten some snaps, but he's a guy that's impressive. And then Connor Nelson is a redshirt freshman who's very talented. So you get that, and of course, obviously you have Averard as well as the fifth quarterback. So it's a good-looking quarterback room. We just got to see who's going to elevate to be that number 2.
Guys, coming out of the second week of practice, the scrimmage that Mark talked about on Saturday, Coach Selfo did kind of meet with the media and talk about that after. Just kind of talking about, kind of hitting on some things he talked about. He did, as Mark mentioned, the defense had a really good day. He talked about how impressive it was, or how happy he was that they were able to force some turnovers, which I think will be key in the season on the day. And he said, but he ultimately said, look, we had a lot of teachable moments that we got today on tape that we can kind of coach the kids up on and build from here, because as everybody has mentioned, the season is gonna come quickly. And he talked about just trying to be more consistent on both sides of the ball. So that's just kind of some of the highlights of his media session after practice, or after the scrimmage on Saturday. So I want to hit on some key notes coming up, guys, real quickly. The season ticket pickup party is this Saturday at Strawberry Stadium. It's at 9 a.m. I'm sure they'll be practicing as well out there whenever that's going on. Strawberry Jam, which has turned into a nice student event, is going to be at 6:30 on the 18th in Strawberry Stadium. Classes start on the 19th. Lion Palooza is at Railroad Park at 5 p.m. on the 22nd. And then Alan will be with Coach Selfo for the first time on the 25th. That's a Tuesday night that week to open the season up. It'll be the 7 o'clock Frank Selfo show at Brady's. Alan and Coach Selfo, like always, like Alan's been doing for 20-plus years, getting the season started, and is looking forward to doing that. So just a couple dates coming up.
Hey, something different too this year too, Robbie. On that first night, just to let everybody know, that first night I think we're going to go longer. I think we're going to go an hour and a half on that.
Cool.
So we're going to verify that, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to go an hour and a half that first night because we have so much to cover. Yeah, that's right. 7 to 8:30. 7 to 8:30 on the first night.
Guys, let's jump into the schedule a little bit. So we want to talk about tonight, opening up with obviously HCU. We know about them, and been in the Southland Conference now. I think 2015 was the first time the Lions played them, or 2014, excuse me. And they've been a struggling football program. Since then, voted pretty low in the preseason polling going into the Southland season. But anytime you open up with a conference game, you have an opportunity to get off to a great start with your season with a win, winning at home in front of your fan base, and then also getting a chance to go 1-0 in the league. So I don't want to talk about every game. I'm going to go through this a little bit, guys, but I want to hit on some games to get y'all to talk about them. Then you have your first FBS game. One thing interesting to talk about is we always see this as Southeastern seems to play pretty well, as a lot of teams do, in that second game. One thing a little bit different is when Lions go to Mobile on the September 5th, that'll be the Jaguars' first game, be the Lions' second game. So maybe a slight advantage there, guys, but that's that first FBS game. Very difficult always to overcome that. And then a big game at home against North Alabama on the 12th of September, return trip from 2021. So those are the first three, guys. Kind of talk about those. Alan, start with you, and what you kind of want to see out of those three games to get the season off to a good start, the first quarter of the season. Yeah,
an opportunity to open up, in the conference is certainly big, but it also, you better be playing your best. The last time Houston Christian came here, they beat us. They beat us here ahead. And, so that's certainly one thing we want to keep in the back of our mind. And you got to play well, and there's so many things that can happen in that opener that you just, you might turn the ball over. There's not a lot of room for error. You cannot start your conference season with a loss. You need to win that game at home. And, one thing that kind of jumps out to me, Mark, especially, you play 5 home games, but 2 out of the first 3 are at home. So now you have 3 out of your last 9 at home. So 6 of your last 9 are on the road. So, yeah, it's great opening at home. It's great having 2 of the first 3 at home, but that means you're going to be on the road quite a bit, especially in the middle of the season.
Yeah, this is, Frank Selfo's no stranger to going on the road and winning. If you remember 2020, right, the hurricane year, 2021.
When we were supposed to go when North Alabama was supposed to come here.
Correct. And that was 6 straight road games to open the season. And, Southeastern won 5 of them. really played well, almost won all six. The Louisiana Tech game got away from him, but he can go on the road. He's done it. Has been to Jacksonville State and won. He's gone a lot of places and won, or played well. And so I don't think that's going to be an issue for this football team because, as the old saying goes, defense will travel. And this is going to be a good defensive football team. So I think that's something that, as that offense comes around, you want to hang your hat on. And we also got to talk about the age of the transfer portal. Everybody's got a chance to get better from year to year. And Houston Christian's shown they can do that 2 years ago. They brought in some transfers. One guy was a third-round pick of the NFL draft that came in here and dominated on defense. Southeastern had trouble moving the football that night and lost their only game to Houston Christian since they've had a football program. And you don't want to have a repeat of that, especially to open the season. North Alabama's brought in a lot of transfers. They got a new stadium that's going to open up the week after they come to Hammond. So there's going to be a lot of excitement there. So you got to expect them to be improved, even though they're picked toward the bottom of the UAC.
Yeah, because Mark, like you said, nobody knows.
Nobody knows exactly. Nobody, we don't know really how we're going to be. Really, I mean, I know what we look like on the hoof, but until you jump out there and you play, every year is a new year. But then you got the two Sun Belts, and both of those teams are picked lower in the Sun Belt Conference, and it's been a league that physically we've been able to match up with over the years. Haven't been able to win those games, but we've gone into Sun Belt programs and played well at UL Lafayette, at UL Monroe in the past, and also South Alabama 2 years ago. Went in there and played well, especially the first half. And can you do it again? This time you're going over there with a little bit better football team. Hopefully you can, maybe go in there and have a chance to win the game in the fourth quarter. That's all you can ask. But again, I think it's a manageable schedule. It's a chance to get off to a good start. Nothing's guaranteed, but if you can get off to a good start and then you're playing from in the front in the Southland Conference, I think this team's got a chance to be really good.
You talked about the UL Monroe game, and Mark Allen talked about earlier. Those are 3 straight road games. You do have a bye week in there, which I think will be pivotal. Going to UL Monroe, which is a place the Lions have been a couple times in the last, 20 years, and have been close. Kind of the games have come down to the final play, essentially losing
2 3-point loss or 1 point loss.
1 point, 28-27, and then a 3-point loss in Frank Selfo's first game as the head coach of the Lions. Going Northwestern State, obviously a team that's trying to figure things out since the very difficult 2024 season that they face as a program. They're going to be a little better than they were they've kind of gotten better every year. That's going to be a home game for them. Going to have to go play well up on the road. Then the big one. I think a lot of people are circling this one. October 10th, UTRGV down there in Edinburgh, Texas, basically right on the Rio Grande border with Mexico. They love their Vaqueros football. They're going to be raring and ready to go. They have high expectations for this season. I know you follow a lot of their stuff, Mark. On social media, they're excited about this team and this season. They're going to be a power in this league, I think, eventually. And it could be as early as this year, a team that could really go for the conference. They almost made the playoffs last year, essentially.
Yeah, they were 9-3 last year. It was a good football team. We caught them right out of the chute in their first conference game. We were the first loss in their program history, and we had to fight to win that game. It was a game we were up 45-17, had to hang on. I mean, they had some big plays that kind of kept them in it. But, again, they had some talent. And obviously that showed later on in the year as they were able to knock off McNeese and, teams like that. East Texas A&M, they had some big wins. UIW, a big win at home, which they dominated. And, struggled against SFA and Lamar, but actually played pretty well at Lamar, but fell short. But they were, a few plays away from having a chance to make the playoffs. So they think they have a team that can do that. They're bringing in transfers. They have a big budget. They have a great fan base that's rabid for Vaqueros football, and it's going to be a test going on the road. I think that's going to be a plane flight for us. It looks like, but it's going to be a tough one, and I got to go down there and play well to win. And of course, I know you're going to talk about SFA. That's another big road game following.
Well, it always matters, how the schedule shakes out. And look, for the Vaqueros this year, they play McNeese, us, Lamar, and SFA at home.
Yeah.
They got them all at home, and it always depends on kind of how the luck of the draw falls sometimes, and we have some tough games on the road. A trip there and a trip to SFA. That's gonna be difficult games to win. Two of the better teams that were in the league a year ago, and now we have to go on the road and play those guys. We didn't play SFA last year, and now when they're back on the schedule, we're going to Nacogdoches for Mark. When's the last time we've been to Nacogdoches?
It's been since 2016. Played Ron Roberts was the head coach at that time. Big win for Southeastern that day. I think we scored like 58 points.
Yeah, a big pick six late.
Late. Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah.
Lamar is smashed right in between those two guys. That's homecoming at home on the 17th of October. So
I'd say I would think, I know we got a long way until we get there. I think we would play our best game of the year against Lamar. I mean, I feel like we owe Lamar something. I feel like that last year just didn't go our way over there in Beaumont. A couple of weird calls, a couple of weird plays, but that's a game that ultimately cost us from winning the conference championship and probably being a top 8 national seed.
Well, Alan,
last year.
If you think about it, since Frank Selfo and Pete Razamondo, the head coach at Lamar, have hooked up against each other, all three of those games have been weird. The one here, 2023, the game Southeastern jumped on top, really were dominating the game, and you had some fluke stuff happen. They scored on defense. You had some turnovers. They ended up winning the game, but you felt like that was a game you should have won. That went along with Tarleton here at home and a real tough 2023 season. Then we go on the road the following year. We're completely dominated by Lamar. But they threw a pick six, kept us in the game, and in the second half, I think we had under 50 yards total offense at halftime. The second half got cranked up and ended up pulling away, ended up going to overtime, actually.
Yeah.
Won that game in overtime. And then, of course, last year was just as odd a game as we can remember. Just couldn't really do anything right offensively all day. Had a chance late, and you can't convert a 2-point conversion. You end up falling in that game. But all three games have been weird one way or the other. And, it's going to be a good one here. It's going to be homecoming. We haven't always played well at homecoming here at Southeastern traditionally over the years. So you want to put your best foot forward. I know this building behind me, we're hoping to be in it close to then or almost in it. And it'll be a big atmosphere here at Strawberry Stadium, but a lot of schedule to play out before then.
I think if you look at our schedule and the way it breaks down is I think Halloween's the date. What do you look like on Halloween night? You're going to finish October at East Texas A&M, and then if you can have a good record at that point, you're going to play McNeese, UIW, and then right there at Nichols. So we won't really leave South Louisiana for the entire month of November. I think that Halloween date is a date you want to kind of circle if you're a Southeastern fan. What do we look like whenever we're trick-or-treating?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And, again, we talked about the schedule. The road games in there sandwiched in between the 2 out of 3 to start at home.
So you play 2 out of 3 to start at home and 2 out of 3 to end at home. The middle of the season is really a lot of road games.
Yeah, I mean it's laid out, but the travel is really not bad this year. I mean, you had the one flight to UTRGV, a longer bus ride to East Texas A&M, but outside of that, SFA is your longest trip, and everything else is either Mobile, Monroe.
Yeah, Monroe. Yeah.
Yeah. So Nichols. So it's a manageable schedule at home, and you get Lamar and McNeese here. So
Northwestern on the road.
Northwestern State. So everything's an easy bus ride. It's an easy trip for our fans. And again, I think a lot of our fans are going to want to make that trip to UTRGV as a novelty trip as well, being the first time to go there. But, as always, we don't have to go to San Antonio. I know that's the one I think we're all happy we don't have to make, because we've been there so many times. Seems like we've had to make back-to-back trips there over the years. Seems like when the schedule gets remade, we've played there more than they've played here.
I mean, is the last time they were here when we walked them off?
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. I feel like we've only played them at home like 3 times.
That's right. And, because, again, when the schedule's recycled, it seems like we always have to travel there. And don't get us started on that one. But
yeah,
it's a manageable schedule. It's one I think Southeastern can navigate pretty well. This team's going to have a chance, I think, to make the playoffs again. I do think this league is set up now. We got 3 in last year. I think it's set up again to get 3 again. And what 3 are they going to be? We'll see.
Well, Mark, another thing is to look at is kind of the landscape of FCS football is the juggernaut is gone.
Yep.
So there's a spot that's open. You know what I mean? Because they're out. So North Dakota State has moved up to FBS. I mean, they've been in the playoffs every year since I've been doing this. So that's an extra spot that'll be open there as well. And but this getting in the playoffs is fun. I love a 12-game schedule because when you do play the 2 FBS games, it doesn't put so much pressure on you to win all the rest of them. When you only play the 11 games. But hey, you got 2 FBS games, but there's not one game on this schedule that you can look at and say we can't win that game.
Well, you're right. I think this team, I mean, conceivably could win every game on the schedule. Now you could flip that, as well with a new offense. But there's nobody on the schedule. You go, we can't win that game. We don't have the talent to win that game. The one thing I think our fans are going to see, this is a really talented football team. When they walk out on the field, they look different. It looks like a college Division I college football team. It's like a good Division I college football team up front. On the line of scrimmage, obviously the back end skill players, just the speed. This is one of the faster football teams we've had here at Southeastern in a long time on both sides of the ball. Just closing speed on defense, the ability to disrupt up front, and I think we have some home run hitters on offense. Now you got to get them the ball, and we got to see what that looks like, with a new offensive coordinator. But certainly, special teams I think are going to be really good this year.
I love our kicker.
Yeah, he's outstanding. Now, Lion fans haven't seen him yet, unless you're from Covington and been to St. Paul's. But I had a chance to watch a scrimmage the other day. He had a 40-yard field goal. Of course, this building behind me sits about 20 yards from the uprights, and he hit the middle of the building, kicked the ball over the uprights from 40 yards. So it would have been good from easily 60, 62, 63. And he gets the ball up. He gets it up quick. I think he's got a chance to be really good. There's some competition there, but he's got a chance to be a really dynamic kicker. And then, of course, Jack Hunter's back, the punter, and he looks really good. Big physical guy that can hammer the ball. Got some guys behind him that can do the pooch and all that. So I think special teams going to be really good. I think teams going to be really good on defense. And the offensive line, it's veteran. And we got some guys that look the part and come off football.
Mark, I think it's just so impressive year in and year out since we've been following this team, since Coach Selfo has been the head coach of how good of a job he's done at identifying players out of high school, developing them, and getting them to stay here. I mean, it's been, it has been an incredible task for him to get them to stay here. And even transfers that come in, you get multiple years out of them. And that's something you're not seeing across the country. If you're following college football, it's not happening. These kids are jumping in and out of programs left and right. And for some reason, it's a great problem to have. Coach Selfo's done a good job of keeping everybody right here.
Well, I've anecdotally done the study, not
a problem at all.
Not a deep dive study, but just kind of looking at it over the years. If you look at, you can almost look at any program, and you can go back and the last 20 years of Southeastern history. If you track recruiting classes all the way through, if you get 2 or 3 or 4 starters out of a recruiting class, you've done pretty well. Frank Selfo has maximized his recruiting classes. It seems like, and really in recent years, not a ton of failures. There's not a lot of guys that what we call just dead space. They come in and can't play and move on. They're staying here. He's growing them up, especially on the offensive line. How often have we said you can't find offensive linemen in Louisiana? And you look on our offensive line, that guy's from right down the road an hour. This guy's 45 minutes away. This guy's, from New Orleans. They're your starting offensive lineman. It's kind of been that way since he's been here, and it's really no different this year. Riley Witten, the starting center. You got Corin Booth. Those guys that are playing. Of course, we got a couple of out-of-state guys. Looks like going to be at the tackle. Logan Potter's back as well. So homegrown guys, and it's that way on both sides of the football, and it's refreshing to see. And I totally believe, 100% believe this. I know you do, Alan. I think Frank Selfo is going to be a Hall of Fame coach here, and he's still got a lot of football left to coach, and he's ramping up. He's not he's not on the downside of his career. He's still ascending, developing this program, and this team has got a chance to be really, really good, and it's got a chance to stay that way for the next 3 or 4 years.
Guys, one game Alan mentioned, the East Texas A&M game won the circle. I mean, a program that's not had a lot of success, hasn't really played the lines that well over the last couple of years, but back-to-back tough road trips to Northeast Texas. You got to go to SFA, and then on Halloween night, you got to go an even longer trip up to Commerce, Texas, to play East Texas A&M. So something to look forward to.
They played pretty well down the stretch. Last year,
except against us.
Yeah, I mean, we blasted them, but they were like really playing well when they came here. And I remember their coach was so upset after the game because he just thought they took a step back. They had been playing so much better. And I agree, Robbie. I think that's one that we kind of just East Texas, but like, I mean, they play Houston Christian 2 weeks before us. They play Prairie View the weekend before us at home. And then, so I think they're going to be feeling good about themselves, down the stretch. I mean, going into our game.
Well,
then you have, you're finishing up with UIW at home, McNeese at home, and then the River Bell Classic, which no matter what Nichols is, or we are at the time, it'll be a tough game down there in Thibodeau.
It'll be interesting this year since a couple of those guys from Colonel Land transferred to Southeastern, with obviously Dalmato being a preseason All-American transfer. And that's kind of, I don't know if that's really happened, Mark, where we've had like guys jump from program to program, Southeastern Nichols.
Yeah, I think we got one over there too. So it's it's kind of a trade-off. But I'll pick up with East Texas A&M. Just start on that one real quick. They are near Dallas. It's a Dallas Metroplex. They beat us the first year we played when they came in the Southland Conference. If you remember, they kept Southeastern from outright winning the league and maybe getting a first round bye in the playoffs, if you remember. And then another tough game here a couple of years ago, and of course we had a couple of blowout wins there, but they got a chance to get better every year because of the Dallas Metroplex transfers that come back. I think they've added a ton to their roster, so we don't know what they're going to look like. You talked about SFA. I mean, we haven't played them over there in a long time, and that's going to be tough. I mean, this is a program that's gone out. They went transfer heavy, and I know everybody's picking them to win the league and do have to replace a quarterback, but they're going to be super talented and, the league favorite to win it, depending on what service you look at. And then UIW, you can't expect them to be down 2 years in a row. Again, they're going to go out and load up with transfers, and McNeese is going to be better. Don't sit back and think they're not going to be a better football team this year. Certainly not going to be like this. We went over there last year. We're up 36-0 at halftime. I don't think anybody believes we were 36-0 better than them. Although we were that night.
We were that night. We could have scored 100.
Yeah, but they closed pretty strong to close out the season, beat Lamar in the season finale. So they're feeling pretty good about themselves. And Nichols is Nichols. I mean, it doesn't matter who's on top or not. That game's going to be a knockdown, drag out, and there's going to be something on the line for one of the two teams, if not both.
It's a good schedule. It's a good schedule with, as Mark said, you can beat everybody, but shoot, you could lose every one of these if you're not careful because it's good teams up and down. I think the disbursement of the road games and the home games are unique with 3 straight on the road. You have the bye week in there, and then you have 2 trips to Northeast Texas back-to-back weeks. So some stuff to talk about that's unique and interesting about the schedule in 2026.
If they say you fear no one, respect everyone. I think that's kind of how you have to look at this schedule.
Yep. All games are on ESPN Plus and always on the network with us. Find an affiliate near you to try to check out this year's season. But for those home games, make sure you're in Strawberry Stadium because these guys need your support as always. So again, Alan will be with Coach Selfo to open up the season on the network on the 25th of August for an hour-and-a-half long show starting at 7 o'clock. It's live from Brady's in downtown. And we'll be on the airwaves 5:30 on the 27th from Strawberry Stadium as HCU comes to town. So we'll be talking more and more. We'll probably start getting some guests here as we make our way through the football season, the podcast-wise, talking line football.
We touched on it last week. A guest we've got to get is Stephen Mormon, the new band director. I know we
Oh, that's huge.
I mean, Alan, can you remember the last time a band director spoke at the
No.
coaches caravan? I can't either.
I mean, he said that we're going to be up to around 100 people. That's double the size. I mean, that's more fans. I mean, look, we've been talking about it for years. Everything doesn't always come as fast as you want. But congratulations for Southeastern to, go out there and get a guy that is really excited about building the band. And, people might be watching this and going, this is a football show. Why are we talking about band? Band is important.
It matters.
It's very important. And we've been lacking in the band department, and really looking forward to seeing what they do put on the field this year.
And take your hat off to Dr. Wainwright and J.R. Teagues for making that happen. They've listened to the fans and said, hey, we got to provide we got to upgrade. And they've gone out and done it. And it's going to be exciting. And again, opening up Thursday at home, new building behind me that's going to close in that south end zone. You got the students on campus for the first time that week coming back, and it's a Thursday night. So, they're going to turn out strong. Like I said, a bigger band, should be a rocking atmosphere in Strawberry Stadium.
Yeah, going to be a good one, guys. All in all, can't wait to see this season come together. We can't wait for every season. So a lot of excitement going on campus with what Mark talked about with the new facilities and the band, maybe some new uniforms for the band as well. I think they've had the kind of same look for a number of years, so might try to change how the band comes out from a uniform or a uniform what they wear situation. So a lot to be excited about on campus going forward for 2026.
What did he say, Alan? Our goal is to affect the opponent. Director. Yeah. So
looking forward to it.
Yeah. So it's
absolutely
going to be fun. But good stuff, guys.
Great job, guys. As always, I want to thank Alan for jumping on with us tonight.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week. Looking forward to talking more Lion football and getting you set for the home opener, August 27th, Thursday night football in Strawberry Stadium against the HCU Huskies. Should be a good one. For Alan Waddell, Mark Wilby, our heroes, and good night or good afternoon, wherever you're watching this one. Thanks for being with us. We'll talk to you next time here on the Southeastern Sports Network podcast.